¡No! ¡No! ¡Se cayó! ¡No! ¡Está temblando! ¡Está temblando!
¡Está temblando, hijo!
Amareli, se está cayendo esta mierda.
At 6:04 p.m. local time, a magnitude 7.2 earthquake shook the country's northern coast. Before terrified residents could even process what had happened, a second and even more powerful magnitude 7.5 earthquake struck just 38 seconds later. In those few terrifying moments, apartment buildings collapsed, roads cracked apart, airport terminals were damaged, and millions of people fled into the streets, fearing their homes would come crashing down. As rescue workers continue searching through the rubble, authorities warn that the true scale of this disaster is still unfolding. This is the story of one of the most destructive earthquakes Venezuela has experienced in more than a century. The disaster began beneath Yaracuy State, roughly 160 kilometers west of Caracas. The first earthquake, measuring magnitude 7.2, originated several kilometers below the surface. It delivered powerful shaking across the region, startling residents from homes, offices, restaurants and shopping centres. For a brief moment, many believed the danger had passed. Then, without warning, the earth ruptured again. Only seconds after the first quake ended, a second earthquake, measuring 7.5, unleashed even greater force. The back-to-back sequence created what seismologists call an earthquake doublet, an extremely rare event in which two major earthquakes occur almost immediately after one another. Because there was virtually no time between the two shocks, people had almost no opportunity to reach safety before the strongest shaking arrived. The second earthquake produced violent ground motion across much of northern Venezuela. Near the epicenter, shaking reached levels capable of destroying poorly built structures. In Caracas, buildings swayed dramatically, windows exploded outward, concrete walls cracked. Power failed in several neighborhoods as frightened residents poured into streets already filling with dust and debris. Within minutes, emergency lines became overwhelmed. Videos posted online showed entire facades collapsing while thick clouds of dust engulfed city blocks. Sirens echoed through the capital as firefighters raced toward dozens of emergency calls.
Mierda, huevón. Qué locura esta mierda.
Nah, huevón, es locura, marico.
Some of the worst destruction occurred in Caracas itself. Residential buildings collapsed in neighborhoods including Altamira, Chacao, Baruta, Los Palos Grandes, and San Bernardino. People trapped beneath collapsed concrete called for help, while neighbors began digging with whatever tools they could find. Professional rescue teams soon arrived, but ordinary citizens had already formed volunteer groups, removing broken masonry by hand in hopes of reaching survivors. Every aftershock forced rescuers to pause before returning once again to unstable piles of rubble. Time had become the enemy. Along Venezuela's Caribbean coast, the destruction continued. In La Guaira, numerous buildings suffered severe structural damage. One of the most shocking images came from Macuto, where an 8-story hotel was reduced almost entirely to rubble. Nearby streets became littered with shattered concrete, twisted steel, and broken glass. Meanwhile, panic unfolded inside Simón Bolívar International Airport. Passengers described ceiling panels falling as lights flickered throughout the terminal. Travellers abandoned luggage and rushed toward exits while airport staff attempted to guide crowds to safety. Officials later closed the airport indefinitely while engineers inspected the extent of structural damage. Metro service in Caracas was suspended. Schools across affected regions were ordered closed. Gas supplies were shut off in parts of the capital to reduce the risk of fires and explosions. Telecommunications and electricity also failed in several communities, making it difficult for families to locate missing relatives.
Mierda. Mierda.
As night fell, the crisis only deepened. More than 20 aftershocks continued to shake northern Venezuela. Several were strong enough to send people running back into open spaces. Many families refused to return indoors. Parks, sidewalks, parking lots, and open fields became temporary shelters as thousands chose to spend the night outside rather than risk another collapse. Hospitals struggled to manage the growing number of injured arriving from multiple cities at the same time. Doctors treated fractures, crush injuries, head trauma, and other life-threatening conditions, while emergency crews continued pulling victims from collapsed buildings.
Completamente. Hay muchos heridos adentro. Esto es un desastre. Esto le venía a los próceres de San Bernardino.
Authorities have officially confirmed at least 32 deaths and more than 700 injuries, but officials emphasize that those numbers are expected to rise. Many damaged communities remain difficult to reach, and numerous people are still believed to be trapped beneath collapsed structures. The United States Geological Survey issued a red pager alert, its highest warning level for earthquake disasters. The alert indicates an exceptionally high likelihood of widespread damage and a significant humanitarian emergency. Among the destruction are deeply personal stories of survival. One elderly resident who also survived Venezuela's devastating 1967 earthquake said this event was far more violent than anything he remembered. He described struggling simply to remain standing as furniture flew across his apartment and walls split apart around him. Another survivor said the earthquake sounded like the earth was roaring. Moments later, her kitchen collapsed. Believing her building might fail completely, she escaped into the street with nothing but the clothes she was wearing.
Colapsó completamente. Hay muchos heridos adentro. Esto es un desastre. Esto es la avenida Los Próceres de San Bernardino.
A journalist trapped inside an elevator during the shaking later described believing those terrifying seconds might be his last. Yet, amid the fear, remarkable acts of courage unfolded. Neighbours risked their own safety to rescue strangers. Volunteers carried supplies into damaged neighbourhoods. Firefighters, police officers, doctors, nurses, and ordinary citizens worked side by side throughout the night, refusing to stop despite the continuing aftershocks. Scientists say the disaster was caused by movement along the Boconó-Morón-El Pilar fault system, the major tectonic boundary separating the Caribbean plate from the South American plate.
Este se vino abajo. Este se vino abajo.
Stress has been accumulating along this fault for decades. The first earthquake likely transferred additional stress onto a neighbouring section of the fault, triggering the larger earthquake just seconds later. This cascading rupture explains why the two earthquakes occurred so close together. Their shallow depth also made them especially destructive. Instead of dissipating deep underground, the seismic energy reached the surface with enormous intensity. Older buildings, particularly those constructed before modern earthquake-resistant building codes, proved especially vulnerable. Many newer structures, however, remained standing, demonstrating the life-saving value of modern engineering and seismic design.
Fuerte temblor, los palos grandes, la castellana.
The Venezuelan government has declared a nationwide state of emergency. Military personnel, emergency responders, engineers, and medical teams have been deployed across the affected region. International partners have also pledged search and rescue specialists, medical assistance, and humanitarian supplies as recovery operations continue. Still, rescue workers know that the next several days are critical. Every hour offers another chance to find someone alive beneath the debris.
Todo quedó destrozado. Todo quedó acabado, mire. Aeropuerto de Maiquetía. Es bueno que ya...
Santo Dios mío.
Marico.
Every aftershock reminds them of the danger they face. For Venezuela, recovery will not end when the shaking stops. Entire communities must rebuild homes, schools, hospitals, and businesses. Families will grieve loved ones while thousands of survivors begin the difficult process of rebuilding their lives. This tragedy is also a powerful reminder that earthquakes do not announce themselves. Decades of silence along an active fault can end in seconds. Prepared buildings, effective emergency planning, and public awareness remain the strongest defences against future disasters.
Muchos daños estructurales.
...45 segundos...
As the world watches rescue crews continue their tireless search, one truth has become painfully clear. In less than 40 seconds, 2 powerful earthquakes changed Venezuela forever. Our thoughts remain with every family affected, every person still waiting for news of a missing loved one, and every rescuer risking their own safety in the hope of saving another life.